Hi, everybody. Hopefully, you're all doing okay. I wanted to come back with a really great hot topic, and I thought this would be a great little video to do. So, welcome to the stream, and if you're catching it live, welcome back. And if you're catching it later, well, thanks for stopping by, right? As you guys already know, I do talk a lot about specific instruments and specific adjustments and specs that people might like. And one of the most common questions that I've seen in the community for a very long time has been flame tops. So the question around flame tops is this: is it actually a flame top that's AAA? Is it quadruple A? When does it start to make that difference, that really big wow factor for the company that's selling it to you, right? So it's a spec sheet, and when we think about spec sheets, um, what kind of expectations is Gibson or even PRS setting for their customers, right? So I wanted to tackle that question because I've got something really exciting. I managed to find the official spec sheet that Gibson puts together for their flame tops. And when we think about flame tops, like I said, one of the most common questions I've seen is people asking others about, does this look AAA? I paid for a quadruple A top, or I paid for a triple A plus top. Does this look double A to you? That's like a very common question. So it's so fascinating to see how Gibson officially rates their tops, and this is what I wanted to tackle in this video. So if you stop by, we're about to dive into that little area of Gibson's rating scale. All right, so we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to show you what is the official rating scale. I managed to find this on one of the older legacy pages that Gibson still had up. So I was looking at something that a seller had posted, and my question to him was something around the spec around neck. 2015 was the year. I know what you guys feel about the year 2015 for Gibson, but the greatest thing that I can say is that looking through that page, I found something that I don't think a lot of people have pointed out, and I don't think it's something that's talked about very often. So I wanted to go ahead and sort of break that down for you and kind of show you. So let me go ahead and reveal that to you. Okay, no drum rolls. Let's go. So you're going to see that now pulling up on the screen. And this is a very fascinating page because there's more than just the flame top rating. Okay, so they also talk about things like the body contours, which is again something that you guys might wonder at times. You know, is my Les Paul a specific type of body contour? Is it not? And of course, the grade of wood on the back, right? Which is not something that we think of very often. But if you are, you know, a mega fan, if you're somebody who really has invested in the product, and if you've been a fan of it for a long time, I'm sure that you would start to wonder what the back looks like, right? And that's super important. So it's all about wood grain and about the density of that grain, right? And I see some really interesting things with the flame top, but I just want to quickly highlight a couple of things. If you look at the bottom left corner, right over there, right over there, you can see 4 different types of body contours. And, you know, you've got your LP Junior flat tops, which everybody knows. You've got a slight raise, which I don't know what it really entails to. I haven't seen the slight body contour. The classic one, which I think is pretty much the standard USA lineup. And of course, enhanced, which I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Let me know if enhanced is just on custom shops, because I think that might be on the reissues. I'm just assuming, so just let me know if I'm right, if I'm wrong. I know you guys are super detail specific with things like this, right? So it's very fascinating, okay? And I think if you look at the back grading right here, let me go ahead and zoom it in for you. You're going to notice something really interesting, okay? I'm going to try and zoom in. Hopefully this shows up well. There we go. So this is what I want you to know. Before we talk about the flame tops, this helps us understand what makes the top really stand out to Gibson, right? So think about this. Density of grain, which you guys can see like a scale going from high to ultra low. And as you can see, the ultra low has almost no lines or no density or no specific impressions within the wood, right? And of course, going up all the way to high, you can see more and more, patterns. You can see more types of figuring in the wood. And I think density is sort of where Gibson really puts their stock in. And when we talk about the AAA flame tops, then this is all going to make sense, okay? And even in the type of the grain, see, they tell you how they actually calculate that. So variations of grain, how does it vary? Is it straight lines? Is it, curved lines? Is it patterns? Things like that. Of course, all wood is beautiful, and that's what we're going to look at when I go ahead and zoom in on the flame top areas themselves. So let's go and look at that a little bit. So this is, on the screen, the official wood selection scale for Gibson, okay? So when we talk about this specific product, this specific spec of the product, this is something that can divide a lot of fans, and I know that with Gibson, you've always got traditionalists and modern, open-minded players. So this is something that's going to be interesting to explore, right? So go in all the way from the left with the C tops, right? So you can see just some slight variation in the wood. You can see some figuring there. Going to B, you really start to see some differences in the shade of the wood, in the shade of the grain. So that's something interesting to note. B plus, you start to see some lines, but I believe you don't really start to see these lines stretch right to the end of your guitar until you get to AAA, right? Then again, there's different types of wood, and this is all random, right? You're not going to be able to pick up. On what it is. I'm sure that it's not something that's an exact science, and I'm sure it depends on the right wood at the right time at the right place, right? And that's kind of what happens. For example, I've seen studios with what looks like a AAA top, and they're not graded like a Studio Plus top or anything like that, right? So it's very interesting, and I think that one thing that we really need to resign ourselves to is that specific colors, specific types of finish are going to look good regardless of it being AAA or regardless of it being like a C-class top. And there might be AAA tops that don't look good with certain finishes, and those finishes might look better with something that's less figured. A classic example is a Honeyburst plain top, right? Absolutely beautiful sort of a top, maple, right? Really, really good. And my personal preference as well, even though I know flame top Honeybursts are great, right? Sometimes it's just the type of wood. Or let me just go back and show you some examples there. If you look at my collection there, you can see like a Smokehouse Burst. On the Smokehouse, notice all the figuring, right? It's right over here. You can see the Smokehouse. That's the one. Notice all the figuring, and it's also about how the finish was applied. So how good is the spray job? All of these things factor into how nice a top might look, regardless of it being AAA or it being, like a C-graded top. Right next to the Smokehouse, you can also see the Honeyburst that I'm talking about. So that's a plain top Honeyburst. You can see the lines in the wood, and that's really, really important. And of course, next to that is my beautiful, I would say for me, like a quadruple A top CE24, right? And you can really see, well, you can't see it a lot in this because it's the lighting's a bit darker, but that top really pops when there's just a little bit of light, and it's extremely three-dimensional. It looks super deep. The dyes that they've used, right? The kind of dye, the finishes, it really makes all the difference to what the top is going to look like, right? And of course, right at the end, you can see another AAA veneer, right? And again, you can see stuff there. So this is what we think, right? So people think that AAA is all that you need. I'm here to say that that might be, the mainstream thing to say, the mainstream thing to think about, but it's not all that you need. And I know some of you will agree with me when I say that figuring and wood grain can be beautiful depending on what kind of finish you're looking at. Like, again, just look at my Smokehouse. I think, in my opinion, it's one of the prettiest things I've ever had, right? So going back to the grading scale, let's have a look at what they rate as a AAA top, right? So all the way looking at a single A top. Once we get into that A plus territory, right? Like you can see it right over there, about here, the A plus territory, you can really start to see defined, lines with gaps between them, right? Which weren't so defined before. And I think these sort of get more and more defined as you go. You can see double A is a bit wider, but again, from what I understand, these lines don't stretch all the way to the end for Gibson to consider them to be a AAA top. So when you go on right here to the AAA side, that's where I believe, and this is based on stuff that I've heard from many people, AAA tops do stretch all the way to the edges, right? So they're gonna dominate most of the spacing of the top and reach the edge and kind of create that. And again, very well defined. You can see a bit of you can see a bit of variation there, and gaps, right? Gaps between the lines. So I know some people are super particular about this stuff, and it does not matter in the grand scheme of things. Because for me personally, if you ask me for a lot of my favorite finishes, I personally like a B graded top, which is the one right next to the C, because it has these beautiful little lines and the right kind of shading differences that really highlight the wood in a great way. Okay, so going on over to AAA plus, and I don't know why that's considered a AAA plus. It seems like you have bigger gaps and bigger shaded gaps within the wood. I don't personally prefer it. But again, I think to each their own. I'm sure Gibson has their own sort of like their own idea of why they grade it like that. And again, going all the way to a quadruple A top, you can see that it just simply has the maximum amount of figuring, lots of lines, lots of thinner lines, so a higher frequency of wood grain, and I'm sure, and quite defined as well, right? So you can see some of it is quite dark. Let me go ahead and zoom in just a little bit for you in case you want to look at it even better. There you go. So these are the top 5 tops, no pun intended, right? So you can really see the differences there. Again, AAA plus, I don't know why it's like that. I'm sure AAA plus maybe plays on the fact that you have that AAA sort of spacing, but the design is more random and unmatched. That has its own charm for a lot of people, so maybe I get that. And of course, you've got quadruple A, which is just incredible, just absolutely incredible. Lots of lines and so on. But again, I like wider flame tops. That's kind of what I like. But you know what? Let me know what you think of the scale, right? There's so many interesting things, and I'm sure a lot of you have never seen the scaling before, just like me, so I wanted to share that with you. And of course, if you are if you're a fan of gear and you really want to talk about these interesting debates that we see in the community all the time, feel free to drop me a like on this video and maybe subscribe to it. That'll really help out because you can see me again soon, right? So guys, hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you understood exactly what exactly what they might be thinking. At least we can make predictions and guesses, right? But of course, like I said, pretty much all wood is beautiful, depending on how you shade it, right? And I think a lot more depends on the spray job, and that's sort of my thoughts on the matter. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you again super soon. This is Mr. Spade, logging off.